Hi, everybody. While Alex is getting ready to join us with his new audio system,
Hello.
that is a pair of headphones, I guess. Is that
Yes,
right?
correct.
Excellent. Um,
I
I'll,
don't
I'll
have new audio.
I'll continue playing host then and say I'm Wasir de Zapareta. I'm the research data librarian at Columbia University Libraries. Boop, 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 boop. Whoosh, whoosh, wow, wow. And joining me on this chat is digital scholarship librarian Alex Hill. Woo. Psh, 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 psh. Bah, 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 bah. Do you have anything to add?
Pickles left.
Pickles
Uh,
left.
are we doing this because Jeremiah still hasn't provided us with a soundtrack?
No, I don't. Whoa, we have a new thing now.
What's the new thing?
Um, on Zoom.
What is it?
You should check out. First off, you should switch us to gallery view so that we both appear on screen at the same time.
All right, done.
And then next is you should open up Twitch to see what we look like.
We look
You, the
like
viewer, already have seen this, but Alex
next to
has,
each other. We look.
unbeknownst to him, we've replaced his
Oh,
typical morning coffee with Folgers crystals. Let's see if he notices the difference.
it's a Columbia University in the bottom. How did you do that?
I did nothing.
Columbia
That
itself did it.
Yes, yes, very, very clearly. This is Columbia. Columbia is branding their own brandy.
Well, I guess there's no doubt anymore about who the sponsor for Studio Remote is.
Yes. Welcome everybody to Studio Remote. Some or all of the underwriting has been done by Columbia University in the city of New York, which is obviously like everyone knows this because we are Columbia employees. It's before 5 p.m. We're on the clock, so they have been paying for this all along. But
Absolutely.
now, but man, that's a watermark.
It's quite this big watermark. But I mean, you know what? We have been very good stewards of the brand. Our color scheme was carefully picked to line with university colors, our font, we have our logos, everything we've done kind of rhymes with this new completely surprising addition to our visuals.
Yeah, it's I don't know, maybe the people listening aren't quite as blown away by this, but I'm pretty excited because it just showed up in the middle of nowhere. It's almost like we are maybe we're trendsetters. Like people were watching our stream and they're like, there's insufficient Columbia branding here. Like, what is this giant ember sticker on the mic boom? Where's a Columbia sticker? Where's anything? These could be two guys from like Harvard or Yale. That's not okay.
Right? I mean, you, it could be.
Anyway, no, Alex. The main reason I was making all those shooty noises and whatever was because I am worried that you are extremely tired today and will need a little bit of extra like pep to make it through this episode. Is that true? Are you
That
tired?
I am very, very, very tired because I stayed up all night.
Okay, why did you stay up all night? The election is over.
I was trying to meet three deadlines on three different. I mean, well, three. I was trying to meet one deadline for three different projects. Um, because today was
Are you
our
going to
seventh
share
annual.
share your screen and start describing why you had to do this these
Yes,
savings?
I can do that. So let me first let me first clear up a little bit of the clutter I have on my screen. And let me make sure I have the projects all lined up. Yes, there they are. And I'm going to now share my Firefox. All right. So the reason for this mad rush this week and especially last night is because today was our seventh annual Caribbean Digital Meetup. Uh, this year was a little bit different uh, for obvious reasons. The conference kind of lasted 2 months, except today was the culmination of it. For 2 months, we were doing 3 creative exercises.
Can you describe what it normally would look like before you start explaining how this one is different, please?
Yes, normally we would meet together in one place and for a whole day. Like, for example, last year, where we met at Barnard, uh, or the year before that, where we met in Trinidad and Tobago at UWI, St. Augustine. So it's a normal conference, kind of normalish, because we do have some elements of conferences in there. But this year was completely different. So we wanted to do something that would actually not be taxing, but we wanted to do something that would keep people engaged with each other in what we call our community, which is the usual suspects, but also people whose work is adjacent to ours, coming in and out. We wanted us to do things together, but that wouldn't be taxing, but that would still be useful. That would lead to projects that can live beyond uh, the conference. And that's what we did. We set about doing 3 different exercises, all of them involving a team. One of them, which is, I was involved in 2 more directly. This one, I was not that involved in, but let me start there. This was Caribbean, Keywords for Caribbean Studies that was put together by Rupika Rism and Kelly Josephs. And it kind of works on the model of the, that MLA project on digital humanities. I can't remember what it is, the exact title, where they digital pedagogy in the humanities.
Okay.
Right, where where scholars were invited to pick a keyword, an object, a keyword, and then speak about that keyword as if you were preparing a lesson plan, by curating 2 or 3 objects related to that word in your mind. So in the old digital pedagogy in humanities, it's a great exercise. Actually, it's linked right here. You have words like hashtag or something. Hashtag is actually one of my favorite ones, done by Marissa Parham, where she picks several items that allow her to talk about the hashtag and flesh it all out, but that also doubles as a lesson plan. So anyways, that was the inspiration for this one, done with and for Caribbean studies in mind.
Mm-hmm.
So
this is also building on the tradition of keywords established by Raymond Williams.
By Raymond Williams, correct. Yeah. So obviously this is where it's different than the digital pedagogy in the humanities, because in this one, instead of the word keywords is not used in the other one, even though more or less the same form. In this one is it highlights the keyword, right, which is Raymond Williams, something we inherit from Raymond Williams. In anyway, so that was one of the projects I need to be. I played a very small role on this project last night at 2 a.m. in the morning when I helped Rupika Rism push to the server the version you see here and gave her access to the server.
You copied and pasted a SSH key.
Pretty much. In technical terms, that's exactly what I did. She passed me her SSH public key, and I slapped it on my account on the server, and now she can push to my server and I cannot stop
Yes.
her. So um, it is what it is. We trust our colleagues with our servers all the time.
Alex, you're showing your whole desktop, by the way,
Let me,
not just the browser, so we can all
then
see how one of our dear colleagues is, instead of watching us
it's,
enlighten the world,
it's playing a video game.
is instead watching, no, not playing a video
Oh, that's
game,
right.
watching people play video games elsewhere on Twitch
Correct.
and trying to tell us how we can play that video game better.
Yes, indeed.
This is the difference between librarians and faculty. The only difference. The only
The
difference.
only difference. Uh, uh, I hear their dental is better, but I might be wrong about that. Anyways, so that was one of the projects. So the other ones I kind of had a direct hand on. So the other project that uh, the one that I was supposed to be in charge of fully is the director of Caribbean Digital Scholarship. It started as a spreadsheet. The idea there was that, like many other of these spreadsheets that had passed around compiling sources, that we were going to kind of tap the our colleagues. I call it league sourcing instead of crowdsourcing
Wait,
because
what kind of sourcing?
I call it league, like colleagues. We're in the same league, a
Okay.
league of one's own.
As it says on the screen there.
Yes, because in the end, this is crowdsourcing implies a level of anonymity that is just not part of these kind of exercises when we're doing with each other in academic social media.
So
These
if you're calling this Cardi D, like maybe it should be like Cardi D Bodak Scholarship or something along those lines.
right. I mean, it depends on
Cardi
what your
D.
environment is. In our environment, it mostly people that we know.
Oh, I think you didn't get it.
No,
Cardi Disco sounds a little bit like if a certain pop star named Cardi D
oh, Cardi B.
released a
Yeah.
song called Sco.
No, there was a lot of that. There was a lot of that. I wanted to have a little fun with this,
Uh-huh.
and I did. And those who will experience this, I will see me having a little fun with it. Uh,
I would suggest actually dropping the first I and calling it Cardi Sco.
Cardi's go. No. I tell you, I already invested in a hashtag. People don't
Or
understand
or
when once
or
you invest in a hashtag, you can't go back.
Cardi S. Yes, you
What happened
can.
there?
There's a very trenchant story that I won't be repeating here because it makes our future boss look bad. Oh crap! I shouldn't have put it that way because people are
You
going to
can't.
misunderstand which future boss I'm talking.
Exactly.
This is an extended inside joke. Hit me up afterwards on the DM. Slide into my DMs if you want the joke
In any
about
case,
hashtags that have to change.
in any case, one of the things that I wanted to do was actually let people's own banners be the uh, be the titles for the directory. Another thing that I did was fun is for example, in the FAQ, I after going into some serious questions about what is digital scholarship, etc., I, I I just made a little joke about what goes good with Dominican rum and this kind of stuff. I just wanted to take the edge off of the sort of kind of stuffiness or sometimes just bland mediocrity that goes into some of these bibliographies and efforts. At the end of the day, I mean, this is an exercise in celebrating the work of a lot of people, but also of understanding and getting a good, view of the overall picture of Caribbean sources. Difference than a Caribbean digital humanities, your average Caribbean digital humanities sort of directory that tries to gather tools and approaches and projects. I leaned more heavily on in the direction of digital collections and libraries. I interpreted scholarship to mean also our access to resources right now that we're all locked up at home online. So there's a lot of, I encourage a lot of people to add even paywall sources. Just wanted to get a good sense of the layout of the land in terms of what is available in bytes.
Mm-hmm.
In any case, that was the project that I was finishing up last night. The one that took me the most because I was building it from scratch based on the spreadsheet. Then the other project that we didn't have, that we were doing as part of TCD, but that we didn't have to do anything new to, was the translation that we had already done, me and Kayama, and that was annotated over a period of a week.
Who's Kayama?
Kayama Glover is professor of French at Barnard and Columbia, and also my co-editor and co-creator of the Archipelagos Journal, and co-organizer of TCD along with Kelly Josephs and partner in many other crimes. The Speaking of which, one of the other projects that I needed to, the deadlines that I have for today was,
Tell me about the translation still. Sorry. You
oh,
started and then I asked who Kayama is.
so the translation, we worked on a new translation of the 1939 type manuscript of the Calle de Jautuope Natal by MSS, which is probably one of the most foundational texts in, if not the most foundational text in Caribbean literature. And this was a work done in collaboration with Cora Veron in Paris, who worked on establishing a new edition of the text. As you can see, you can recognize the theme for those of you who are starting to see this theme pop up a lot. This is my Ed theme. I work with Cora and creating this website that allows you to explore the manuscript in detail. And as part of it, we did this translation, right? But the point of doing the translation, the TypeScript manuscript, however you want to call it. I've seen some people call TypeScript manuscripts.
Why just because in the French there it says le TypeScript.
Yeah, I kind of like TypeScript and I use TypeScript as much as I can. But I've seen people in MLA, for example, is fine with you calling it a manuscript, even if it was typed.
Yeah.
But in any case, the point of us doing this translation was because we wanted to invite dozens of our friends to come and annotate it with us during a week using the tool Hypothesis, which allows you to kind of create this layer on top of any web page, New York Times, whatever, it doesn't matter. That allows you to drop in your comments and begin threads as if you were talking on YouTube. And just like a YouTube thread, it allows you to embed memes and GIFs and videos and sound. So it allows for this kind of multimedia rich conversation based on individual lines. So it's a variation of the book club, where you sit down together and everybody passes around, picks a line from the book, and so on and so forth. Reading clubs that we were part of as graduate students and are part of right now as professionals.
Can you like instead of just scrolling and doing like a little bit of UX show and tell, can you talk about the translation of the title, like and use the UX to talk about what happened here?
So here, for example,
but I mean, and also talk, because you and I have talked about how to translate this title,
right?
So go ahead.
So this was the one that you and me came up with at the end. I think as a combination of both of our thinking here. Notes for a Return to My Birthplace was, I think, something that you and me had talked about. There were a lot of opinions about this, and I think it's not going to be the final version of this.
Oh, I see. So someone immediately commented on precisely the two things that we
had talked about.
What was the translation you had before, or is that like a secret?
Notebook. It was Notebook. I think it was called Notebook of a Return to My
Place of Birth.
No,
there was no my notebook
to the birth to the place of birth. Yeah,
to the
place that's how it started, and then we started talking about it. It was funny because this was the one line that I'd never discussed with Kayama, because when we were translating, we actually forgot to translate the title in our Google Sheet, in our Google Doc, where we were translating everything. So it was the day before I published this, right before the event started, that I was like, oh, we haven't translated time. That's when I started that conversation with you after I had just put the original title there. And then it was like, I just made a quick change, and that's how it ended up going live, right? As often these things do. You have no idea the amount of stuff that got decided at the last minute between yesterday and today for these projects that I'm showing you.
Well, I
But
do know you didn't sleep.
yes. So, in any case, so there was a very generative conversation about that title, uh, both about the title in general and about specific words like return.
Wait, can you scroll up a little bit up there? This I found the Journal of the Recent English Translation. No, N.J. Hamilton's
This one?
comment there. Yeah. Okay. Now just leave that on screen and say what you were saying. Sorry.
Yeah, I was saying that people come would throughout the poem, you get this kind of conversations. There's like 70 plus conversations, and they're kind of like this, and it's a fantastic crew of mostly professionals, uh, making themselves vulnerable, sometimes being funny. Uh, it is a testament, as Kayama said during our presentation today, that it is a testament to the fact that we ourselves, that our criticism is a negotiation, it's a conversation, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
constant conversation with each other. As students don't realize this, they imagine perhaps that, or I know I did when I was a student, that the authority comes from a place of certainty. They don't realize that the authority comes to a place of uncertainty, a place of debate, a place of exchange.
Of being comfortable with that uncertainty
Yes.
and not requiring I mean, this is Eve Cedric's point about reparative reading, is that
Yeah.
the reason you want reparative instead of symptomatic reading is because you are cool with the uncertainty, and
Yeah.
that's actually where you develop the most like generative and concrete understanding of whatever you're reading,
Yeah.
with reading being very broadly described here. Whereas symptomatic in Cedric's reading, the way Cedric presents it, like strong theory is about going to vroom, it's this way and that's it.
Right. And of course, this kind of exercise makes that kind of impossible because it is by design a thread.
Yeah,
It
and
is
it
by design a
shows.
conversation. It just
Right,
cannot be
right.
anything else. No voice can be dominant. I mean, obviously, you could monopolize by just highlighting every word and then ruin it for everybody. That did not happen in this case.
I I'm so I haven't read, like, I gave my suggestions for the titles without having read a single line of this poem. Um
You haven't read the poem? Well, I
no,
have
well,
good
I
news for
but
you
but I mean,
because
I because now it's available but no, but like the reason why, because I'm the one that, I at least I think, pushed for notes for, and it was because for me the French original, and like because I haven't read it, I don't know anything about the content, but for me the original feels like it's written ahead of time,
right,
and
it
like and but like the suggestion here of notes on, like, works perfectly and is a very clear improvement, and like
there's a
especially
debate
especially
about
if there's
that.
a okay, go ahead.
There's a debate about that. The biographical details suggest that this is both,
Okay.
uh, and also the tense used in the original French can allow for that reading. A lot of scholars are quite convinced that he is referring to both his first return when he was in his second or third year in college in Paris, and then he returned once for a summer vacation, and then he went back, and then the return after, right before the war begins, where he's done with college and he's going to come back, and the poem kind of takes that reading just fine, where he's like, the first time around when I came back I just saw mystery, and the second time I saw potential, and I think during the comments, I think a couple of people were uncomfortable with four. So I think a good compromise between off and for, that I think is the one that I'm going to work with Kayama on landing on. That one is on.
Right, that's what I was saying, is that is
Notes
that
on
on.
a return.
Yeah, because the
Um,
notes of doesn't work at all. Like, it doesn't sound like
yeah.
English to me. Notes for is what I suggested, because somehow from the French title, I understood it to be, like I said, like, these are ideas I had in preparation of of the return, right?
Right. It
And
makes a
that's
very a strong temporal claim, which I
yeah.
think is we're not gonna soften that one with on, which doesn't make such a strong temporal claim.
And I think you and I think that it's like now that I'm saying all this stuff out loud, like it would be like Kalyapu for like, like that to have that sort of um dativeness of creating something for something else,
Yeah.
that it doesn't have, that the doesn't have. But anyway, I'm not again, not having read it, exercises seems a little weird for me, but I don't think of a Kaye like maybe idiomatically it has more of a sense of that. Like I would want something more like etude for that.
Right. No, me too. Well, you're gonna after the me and Kayama after we let a couple of weeks of rest pass after TCD, we're gonna go back and revisit this whole conversation to try to produce a final version of our translation, letting now those voices of all of our colleagues and friends kind of inform our own conversation with each other about where we're gonna land in.
Nice.
So hopefully this will be a translation that people can use in English in their classroom. It's open access, which is rare, so students don't have to pay for it. And as you can see, a lot of work and community went into making it. So the
Mhm.
other things, two things that I do that I had to launch today were really quick that I also worked on last night was the new issue of Archipelagos is out, issue number 5 with many wonderful new contributions. A quite range. It's the first one in which we have a piece that is about sound. This is Jacob Edmund examines Brathwaite's digital audio archive at UPenn Sound of him, Brathwaite reading his poetry. Uh,
Mhm.
the Tao League of also has a sound piece in it. I would call this, I mean, it's not a special issue, but I would call this the sound issue. Also because Sarina Praters, she found this gem of a reggae song in Chinese. Well, it's not reggae, it's um, that early form of reggae. Man, uh,
Son.
no, no. Uh, hold on a second. Rocksteady.
Okay.
Anyways, in Chinese, and Serena Prater has always studied Asian presence in the Caribbean and intersections with Black in the Caribbean. In any case, great issue, great new issue is out, but that had to be put together. And finally, a project that might actually come back to Studio Remote. We launched 1.0 of
Woo woo.
In the Same Boats. Now, this is a project that tries to map the trajectories, the life trajectories of several important Black historical figures in the 20th century. Now, we're launching with 12 of these figures because those data sets are clean and complete. But the goal is to keep on adding figures. Not only can you actually see their life trajectories, here's a Messageries, for example, who had a very rich trajectory. If my JavaScript would allow me to grab this bottom one, yeah, there it is. Here's him born in the teens, traveling to Paris as a student, Croatia, a little visit, etc., 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 until you get a picture of his life journeys. Not only is this about the life journeys of these folks, it's also about the places where they intersected in time and space. Uh, this is, for example, in the 1940s, let's say, in the 1940s, during the time of World War II. Let's see where our intrepid historical figures were, if the JavaScript can collaborate here. It's a little finicky. For some reason, it's bugging out with the screen share. In any case, this is the 40s. So, for example, in Martinique, we find that Catherine Dunham and Wilfredo Lamb find themselves there. 1935 and 08 to and 1941 for Wilfredo Lamb. In any case, the reason why I say that this project is going to perhaps come back uh, to Studio Remote is because me and Monsieur have talked about kind of redoing this for 2.0 kind of from scratch. There's a lot of things that are not part of the original that I think people want, which is, for example, the ability to zoom in and out of these things. But also, I think the sort of design, the way in which we design temporality in here, can bear some more scrutiny and more critical debate.
Well,
Uh,
I'm not, my excuse me, my thinking is always not so much that the visualizations themselves, um, have issues or whatever that would occasion a 2.0. To me, the 2.0-ness and the promise of doing a rewriting is to think about this, which I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but to think about and present this project as not a template but as something abstractable that can be then further used by other scholars who want to create something similar or something along those lines. So to that effect, like abstracting out the geographical layer of all the different place names and everything, and linking that up with a larger database of place names, something along those lines. And then also, I think you mentioned before on the stream, like not today, but another time, like how most of this site is just like one 2,000 line JavaScript file, that is, it works, but is difficult to learn from.
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason a lot of these things were experimental, and that humongous JavaScript file is part of actually one of the historical charms of the project, which is the accumulation of the work of students, of myself, of an outside of company, Agile Humanities, which we sometimes contract out with their friends, and all of these voices are in that file and in many of the other files. All right, all of these all of this thinking is there, and it's because the project at some point has served the pedagogical purposes, at other points not. And what you see in here is the result of 4 years of many permutations.
Right.
And I think, though, I learned a lot from it, and I think that my 2.0, and I told you this, the impulse to do this is 2.0, and perhaps tie it to Studio Remote, because I think we can get a lot of good content out of it. Is
Always be contenting.
You gotta content it. The it's I think some parts of that experiment I think failed in a way that I think a 2.0 might actually just be a moment of acceptance and of doing things a little better. One of them, for example, is like I think I over trusted data curation uh, on a
Yeah.
spreadsheet.
Yeah. The workflow is, like you said, it's 4 years, and 4 years in internet time is forever. And it would be possible to reimagine this project leveraging new technologies, leveraging the fact that uh, you understand the technological landscape better, you know just from that, to allow you to reimagine what you actually wanted from, what you want from this project. I think that makes perfect sense. I mean, like I have projects that I don't dislike, but are old, and I would not want to teach from them, nor do I really want people to like look at them in any real critical way, because it's just, I have plenty of 2,000 line JavaScript files of my own, and that's because, at least in my case, I didn't know better, and that's fine. Like we are in the business of learning.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and that takes the shape of teaching, which is a form of self-learning, when it's done well.
Yeah,
So that's
absolutely,
like,
I
yeah,
agree.
so that's totally cool, I think.
Yeah, so we'll revisit people, so you might be hearing us talking about in the same boats more in the future. But today, though, this is sorry, that was a wild tour. That
No,
more or
it's
less summarizes why I'm super dead right now, because all of these things were launched. They were not ready. They were launched just about 2 hours ago.
Yeah.
Now they are ready. In fact, actually, I launched in the same boats without having fixed the credits page, and I feel really bad about it because Rupicarism, for example, had done the Du Bois data, and
Uh-huh.
her name was still not on the credits, and there was a couple others that I had not. I hadn't updated the credits file, and that was one of those things at 6 a.m. This morning that just like it just fell through the cracks, and I felt horrible about it. So actually, I did update it in the interlude between the conference and studio remote. I did get a chance to update that, but yeah, people never do this at home. Don't try this at home. Don't launch 5 things on the same day. Because your friends are gonna feel like you don't care about them because you leave them out of the credits page.
I'm yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, we care
I'm
about
sure
all of our
I'm
friends and about
sure
everybody who works. So credit pages are sacred. This is a
I'm sure
horrible,
that
horrible mistake.
your and Rupika's collaborative collaborative life is going to continue unabated.
I have a
So
sense that
that
we also
that
that's
sounds a
another
little
one
bit
of my partner in crimes that a lot of
yeah,
projects together.
yeah.
Her keywords came out really nice. The design she did the design for the site.
Okay.
It was and she built it on Jekyll. It's a Jekyll site. She told me the name of the theme. I wrote it down. It's a really nice theme. Works really nice. Let me show it again. I kind of like it for that kind of project where you're showcasing. Uh, Obviously, this is. I'm guessing that this is the blog post. Each one of these things is a post in the language of Jekyll. But I
Well,
think
it's a
for
collection of
or a collection of things, right? I
yeah.
think this is.
I mean, posts are just a collection. I mean, this is dumb that I'm making
Yeah,
this point, but
yeah,
posts are just a collection in Jekyll, but it's the collection that comes built into Jekyll.
right. It is a collect that, but it has added slightly a couple of other features, like it assumes seriality, so the RSS is built around it, and it assumes.
What do you mean
Uh,
by seriality?
so, for example, you can write a file name, which is if it's marked as a post, you can. It assumes that it's going to be a series of. Therefore, it gives you extra functionality. So, for example, you can write a file name with a date at the beginning of the file name, and then that will get added as the date. It will be extracted by the software and added as posted on such a date. You cannot do that with any other collection, only with
Oh, I
posts.
thought you meant about the keywords.
No. I was talking about Jekyll post again. Sorry, but
I see.
keywords itself might be itself a series that may continue into the future. That was mentioned today, so we'll see
Yeah.
if that happens.
Well, yeah. Like any collection can be put in a specific order. Um,
Right.
and but well, whatever. I mean, like, not a big deal. But yeah, it does look nice. So good
Yeah, she did a great job
good on her.
on that one. And all right, but today though,
Today
we have
we're
you told me you had some good ideas for what we can do today, and it's something mostly you driving, so I can take a little bit of the passenger seat on this one, as
yeah. As long as you stay awake.
I will be awake and asking questions.
Excellent. All right, that sounds fantastic. So I will now do my own bit of screen sharing and remind everybody of like where we are in the wonderful world of the Rose Hall project, which is here. So I have the server up and running, and this is sort of um, the mock website that we have that uses. I mean, this is just a picture. This isn't like this has nothing to do with Rose Hall, but as a picture just to sort of stand in as a visualization. And then we built up last meeting 2 weeks ago, we built up this using fake data, this list of all these people that stand in for the 208-ish enslaved people who make up the roster of people that are at the center of this website. And we started making these. So we have this list, and we started making these little descriptions. But I noticed when I fired this up, so this gets rebuilt every single time the page is loaded. Like none of these names, Serenity, Luella, etc., they are uh, uh, like built at random, as are the birth dates and everything. And I noticed right away today when I fired this up that it says Serenity arrived at Rose Hall in 1796. And that shouldn't be. um, because we actually probably don't know when certain people arrived at Rose Hall. So does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, because our data only starts in 1817, I think, if I remember correctly.
Hmm.
So, so I, like just because in maybe what's bad practice, I get like really fidgety about things like this and want to fix them like before I move on to something else, like these tiny little things. So there are two things that we could do here. Like one is to go to Git, um, go to GitHub, sorry, and create an issue. Like new issue, blah blah blah. And I thought about doing that, but I also thought just now while talking about it that maybe I should see if there's a way that I can fix it really quickly. So I know that it's not inside of a component, it's inside a template of the index page. So we have here, this is the section there. So here, this is the picture of the pie chart. And then this is the information section. If I go down here, we have these people here. So it's supposed to say, all right. So it's smart enough to know that if the person's birth year is less than or equal to 1818, then say arrived at Rose Hall. Whereas if it's after 1818, we just assume was born. Like we closed talking about this last time, if I recall correctly, about how we're making assumptions in the data that everybody who shows up in Rose Hall after 1818 does so because they were born at Rose Hall, right? But you can see the logic here is a little bit messed up because you have arrived at Rose Hall or was born in a year, but we actually don't know. But like this we always know was born in a year, but we actually don't know arrived at Rose Hall in a certain year.
Correct.
So
I would put in-person birth year inside the else statement and then rework the if statement.
right. So but then this is kind of weird because we were trying to handle two things at once, which was uh, we have a birth year and an exit year, but we don't have an arrival year that is associated with a person.
No, correct.
Right?
So you would write something like arrived in at Rose Hall before 1818 as prose text. That's it, because we don't know.
Right. But then this is the funny thing, because I was trying to remember. I mean, I guess I could have just watched the stream, but I'm like, why were we thinking in these terms? Because we don't have an arrival. We only have the birth year. So we actually don't need this if else, because we can say that for the context of what we know now, we can say like just person was born in. Do you see what I mean?
But what if we don't have the birth date?
Well, we do, because
For
we
all of
always,
them?
yeah, we because the way that the people are presented as a certain age in the archive.
Okay, so we'll be able to calculate it.
So it's calculated. So that's why it's was born in or around. And if we go here, we see that it's already changed. Jaden was born in or around 1769. Trudy was born. So then if we go to where's so Johnny was born in or around 1824. So this would have been a baby that was born in Rose Hall. So this requires going back to the data to see how it works, etc. But it was a little thing that was bothering me, and so I just wanted to change it for starters here. Remove arrived at from person card text. Okay. So what we have here is we have this list, and we have that's what the UL is, and then we're looping over the model, which is the data that gets created randomly every single time we reload the page, right?
Mhm.
And what Ember and React and what a lot of frameworks really encourage doing now is to use components um, instead of writing this sort of stuff out like this. So we already have a component. Oh, we don't. The component isn't here. It's in. Uh, it's in here. We created a component a bit ago called navbar. So this navbar thing is actually a bunch of HTML that we already wrote, and we
Right.
can refer to it here as just navbar. So actually, I can even in here just like put in navbar like that, and we'll have this navbar gets reproduced here, right? Like just like bloop, plug and play. Excellent. So I think that we should do the same thing here with this loop.
Okay.
So what we should do is we should create something that's called like a person card. Okay. So you do this in Ember generate component person card. We wait. And this is still, we're not writing any JavaScript yet, as you'll see. So then we go back here, and I'll open up, let me move this over here a little bit. And now,
Monsieur,
so
as you do
yes.
this, can you tell component to me, as the way you're using it, is a little bit more than just a bunch of HTML that you just wrote. That would
Well,
be the
I haven't written any HTML yet for the component, but go on.
no, but it's more than that. Like for example, in Jekyll territory where I live, an include is just HTML, but a
Yes.
component in the way that is used in the React or the Ember community is not just that.
Oh, yes. So there are similarities between an include and a component, but
Right.
I think components are much more expressive and allow for much more behavior, which is what we're going to be doing today.
Okay.
Is we're going to actually start writing JavaScript for a change today. Are
Sounds
you
good.
ready? Okay.
We are ready.
Okay, so instead of having this HTML here, I'm going to open up the component file. What was it called? Person card. And I'm going to paste the HTML that we have here into here, but I'm also going to comment it out at first because it's not going to work. Okay. So as you can see on the screen, everything went blank here. Nothing gets shown here anymore. So I can do like I can write in here, you know, person, and now we'll just get a repeating list of the word person. Oh, we won't yet because we have to put this in here. Person card. There you go. Person. And I can tell you it does this 208 times. You know, we can count it, but, or you can trust me. Because for every single entry that we have in the model, which is all the data, we, for every single time we loop through that, we create a person card. And currently person card is only this line of HTML. Okay. There's this yield at the bottom that we can, let's ignore it. Let's get rid of it. So it just says person all these times, right? Now, here we have these references to person.name, person birth year, etc., which we copied from here. And here we explain what person is by saying each model, loop through model, and each time you do it, take the values of model, of that iteration of model, and make a new variable called person, right?
Right.
But there's nothing here that does the same thing. So person is undefined here. So if I do this, dun, 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 like it's already complaining. Like Vim is already complaining. You see these little red arrows, and if I go here, it says you are using the component person name with curly component syntax. There you should, so it doesn't even really know what's going on here, because it's like, I don't understand what is happening here, because when I see curly brace, and then just a word, I think that it's supposed to be a helper, like the if that we had earlier, right? So now you see it's complaining about all these sorts of things, and then this is what it looks like here. So this is one instance of the component. Here, let's add a little thing here. So it's a little bit clearer. So person was born in or around. They left Rose Hall in. They were classified as blank in color and blank in origin. Person, et cetera, because the data isn't defined. Like person doesn't mean anything here, right? I mean, this is very clear. So the idiomatic way to do that in Ember is to define a variable called person with an @ sign and send it the variable that we define up in this line, in line 29, as person. So @ sign person equals person. And just for legibility purposes, let's add some white space here. Okay. So it's still broken here because person over here is coming in as an argument. So in order to get it to be visible here, we have to change and there you go.
It's a variable. Yeah.
Yeah. So now it's a variable. So this does this @ sign thing is a little bit borrowed, I think, from Ruby. Because I know Ruby uses the @ sign to indicate instance variables of a certain class. So I think these arguments that get passed to components, and in a similar way, model here is also a variable property, however you want to think about it, that is a property of the index route.
Right.
Which is this file here is the index template. This file here is the template for the component. Okay. So now we've collapsed all of that HTML into just this one line here. And now we can close this because now we're just working on this. What do we want to do here?
Was born in or around. That sounds good.
Okay. So I think that well, let's try it without a let's try it with a div and then try it without one afterwards. So let's put this paragraph inside a div, because the goal that I wanted to talk to you, because so this by itself is like, okay, big deal. Like all you're doing is making more files, you know, which I know that you're not the biggest fan of, like,
no.
Especially when it sort of feels gratuitous. Like, oh, he's breaking this up into more files just because he can. Like eventually it'll just be each word is its own file, which, you know, isn't a terrible idea, but it's a terrible idea.
I mean, the reason, so just to be clear, the reason for creating different modules would be, we create modules because we reuse them. And anytime that you have something that you're going to place in many different parts, makes sense to put it just in one part that you can just make changes to, that will propagate to every other place where you're using them. That is the logic for separating things into chunk. That is the purpose. Now, yeah, it's not for like because we're librarians and we must organize things by call numbers. No, there is an actual practical purpose in computing for doing this, which is the proto-universality of these things, their ability to propagate beyond the sui generis. Now, when you're creating projects like this, I often encounter myself wishing I had not universalized something, wishing I had allowed myself the flexibility for that thing not to propagate everywhere in the site where I need a footer, or everywhere in the site where I need a, yeah, sometimes I wanted the ability to, so I'll give you one example. So this is something I encountered in one of the projects that I was doing this week, where I had the title of a page show up in header one with a byline right below it, such and such by such and such, right? And this was constructed automatically from the YAML based on a module that was there. It's a little tiny little thing that for every page in that category was going to create the same structure, a title and a byline. I wish I hadn't done it. And for this one, I can't remember the exact case, but I wish I hadn't done it because there was a case in which I needed to have a little bit more in there, in between the author and the title. And then, of course, I either go back and redesign the module, but then or just close it and redo everything by hand. But the thing is, though, that if back in the day, when before this doing this modularization, I would have just had better sense, I would have not done it, because at the end of the day, the work of actually adding just a title by hand and an author is not that much. Like what? No. Give yourself, keep that freedom at the expense of what? Of writing one line for each of these files? Yes, I would keep that freedom for you to then tweak it later in any way you want that is sui generis, not in a way that propagates across everything. So it's a balance. We're always playing between things we want to be exactly the same everywhere and things perhaps we want a little bit of freedom to change by hand.
Yeah, I think that that's right. And there's, like the the best test for whether you did something right is whether it works like you expect it to work. Um, like it's funny, the example that you're giving about, that this name had to appear a little bit differently in this one instance, because to me, like that's exactly why you would want to modularize it. But that's like we just approach these things differently. It doesn't, there isn't a right or wrong. There's just how we think about these kinds of things. So and for me, it's like, because there's something fiddly about it, I would want that fiddliness to be siloed into a specific place. Like, because so let's say it's like in your case, like you have a post by an author and it says by first name, last name, right? And then you have in the YAML, you have like a first name field and a last name field, right? So you always do first name space last name. But then say you have a Japanese author who insists on their name being presented in the Japanese style, where it's last name, first name, well, family name, then personal name. Right. Then you can't. So then the question is like, well, do you like how do you answer that? Is the answer, let's just do it, like you said, like let's just do it by hand for the 6 pages that we have? That's fine. And just remember that, oh yeah, this person, it has to go the other way around. Or when you have hundreds, then it's like, well, is there a way to programmatically decide which way to do it? And so that's why for me, because then if I do it programmatically, it's a tiny little thing that I can test. I can I understand how it's supposed to work, right? So like for example, um, here in this component case with the person card component, like this is now testable, and we can, like instead of having a test like, well, we don't have the if anymore, but like that if that we had, we could test it like, all right, when it's the case that the birth year is less than 1818, say this, and when it's the case that it's otherwise, say this, right? And then we have in one test file, we have one little mini set of tests that's in one manageable place that we know, where we can test whether it's working appropriately, as opposed to having this material in the index template, where then that testing to make sure that it's picking which sentence to write is part of the index routes test suite, like set of tests. And that to me doesn't make sense, because it's not a question of whether the route is working correctly. It's a question of whether the data is being presented correctly. But again, like if it works like you want it to work, then good. Anyway, the main reason for turning this into a component, however, is because of wanting to be able to show, to make it so that this little paragraph shows up. When do we want it to show up? Do we want it to always show up? Alex?
Yes.
Wait, no, we don't.
No. Oh, you mean the when, because the cards are gonna have like read more?
Yes.
Yes.
We want, so we want sort of the, if we were
Their
like,
names to show up.
yes, correct.
Always.
We want the names to always be there, but so describe the functionality that you want here.
So what you want is you want to click on a name, or sometimes it's not even click. You want to click on the visualization, and sometimes
Well, let's not talk about the visualization now.
okay.
Let's just work on.
It has to open and close like accordions, like each little mini accordion, according to certain interactions. Let's leave the interactions vague, because we might want that to be triggered depending on several things.
Okay, but let's pick one.
Okay, we can pick one. So click on it and it opens.
Click on the name.
Yeah.
And the information shows up. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the section of the template that deals with the name.
Mm-hmm.
So we do this on click. Does that sound good? Calling it toggle bio?
Yeah.
All right. This will probably crash.
Because you haven't created that toggle bio yet.
Right. Okay, so it doesn't crash, but it's complaining that the H4 is a non-clickable element, which we can make clickable.
That allows you to actually call a function even though you haven't defined it yet. That's great.
Okay, so now it's not complaining, because by giving this H4 element the role of button, it's now a clickable element. Like this would have worked even if I hadn't done that, but it's bad practice. Now this is more accessible, because it indicates to a screen reader that you should be able to push on this and have something happen. It may crash when I actually click on it. So let's see if it's crashing.
Yeah, because what the hell, is trying to do something that it doesn't know what it is.
Yeah. I don't think that's the problem. Okay, so it's not saying, it's not doing anything. But all right, so let's do that. So now we finally are writing some JavaScript. So we go to so Ember. This used to be the default for making a component, but since they're really pushing this HTML first kind of way of coding, their idea is that actually you can often have components that don't have any JavaScript at all. So this one will need it. So we make person card, And this is described here. Tip to add a class, run Ember, generate component class person card. So that's what I'm doing down here. Oops. See, I should have just copied pasted. Component class, not class component. Okay. All right, so here we have the template, the actual HTML, and here we have the JavaScript. It's blank now, but is this right? This doesn't feel right, but we'll see. Right, of course.
Nope.
What?
It's not showing up. Oh, there it is. Yeah, it showed up.
Bum, 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 ba-dum,
Yeah, there it
ba-dum,
is.
ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. So, ooh, how did I do this? That was, how did I shrink the, okay. Oops. Okay. Oh, I know how I shrunk it. All right, it doesn't matter. Anyway, so here's the template. And so what this is, so remember earlier when there was that big red error that was like saying, Ember expects something that is brace, open brace, then a word to be
Right.
a helper. So like if is a helper, on is a helper. So on, click, do an action. Okay.
Right.
And this is a reference to this instance, this class instance of the person card component. So this refers to this thing toggle bio. So if I change this to toggle biography and do this, then oops.
Obviously,
Now it's crashing and complaining because it's like there's no such thing as toggle bio here. I don't you know why I wasn't crashing earlier, Alex, when we first did this? Because there was no class defined yet. So it didn't know where to go looking for toggle bio. It didn't know what this was because there was no class already defined for the component. I mean, this is a very like finicky thingy, but now
I
now
found it surprising that you were allowed to create an action that
yeah.
did not exist.
So, but anyway, now it's crashing because it now knows where to look for this, and it's looking there for an action called toggle bio, and it does not find it.
I'm trying to come up with a philosophical joke about the machine that complains only if it is promised something and cannot find it. But it does not complain if it's promised something that does not exist.
Do you want to think about that a little bit while we break?
Is it time for break?
It's time for break.
I don't think I am in any position to say any more jokes today. I am done.
Does that mean that you don't want to take a break, or?
No, we should take a break, but people who are tired should not say jokes. That's what I meant.
Okay. Yeah, you're gonna end up getting canceled or something.
Exactly. That's what happens when tired people say jokes. All right, see you in 10 minutes.
All right, yeah. Let me make the little thingy and yeah, We are on break. Be back at 19 past the hour. Dun, 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 dun. So I'm back, and I guess Alex will be showing up soon. Um, and so here's where we close things off with this uncaught error. Assertion failed. You must pass a function to the second argument to the on modifier. So on click. So click is the first argument. And a function must be the second argument, this toggle bio. But this is undefined because there's no such thing as toggle bio because there's nothing called toggle bio down here, even though I say console log toggle bio. So if I change this to biography, the error here disappears. And now when I click, we see toggle bio showing up in the console again, like it should be. Now, before Alex comes back, I was wondering about something. How?
All right. All
right, great. I sort of started already a little bit,
That was
but
a good
I mean
break.
that's okay. I've been
A little
wondering
break.
a little bit about. Oh, Alex probably has me on mute, so he doesn't know that I'm here chatting. And he's just making
I
noise.
cannot hear you because I don't have my headphones on.
Right.
Yes, I did not even notice you were talking until I saw your lips moving. Hold on.
So action. I'm wondering if I'm engaging in a little bit of legacy Ember here by even requiring the action helper. So let's see if this works without the action helper. Yep. Okay, so we don't even, or the action decorator. So we don't even need the action decorator anymore. So this is actions. Actions were always a rather confusing aspect of Ember. And now the actions could do actually two things, and they use the word action to describe both things. And I think here in this case, we don't need to do that. Actually, though, it may be the case that, let's try this. Sorry, Alex, I'm just sort of like messing around a little bit here to test some ideas.
No, please. The point of our weekly exercise is to do work, and this is exactly what we do when we work. We mess around.
Because I think that this may be an idiomatic thing in Ember. So we have this toggle biography. So now if I click here, it does toggle bio, and if I click here, it does toggle bio. So if I click on either of these, it shows the name twice, and both times it sends that message toggle bio.
Right.
So now let's change this to just toggle bio by itself. And let's, to give a little bit of distinction between these. So that stays toggle bio, and this will be toggle biography, okay? So now, toggle biography, toggle bio, toggle biography, toggle bio, as expected. Now, let's see if okay, that's old school Ember. Okay, so it used to be the case that action was a helper. And this is how you used to write this back in the day. You used to write this something along these lines, but now they are encouraging to use this this syntax of on click function. Excellent. So let's delete that. And now we have toggle biography, and we can keep that because I like that as a name more than toggle bio anyway. Be expressive when you code. But
Can you remind me again of so HBS can exist as a file type, can exist almost anywhere on an Ember rig,
what do you
right?
mean anywhere?
Because I've seen it, it's in the components here, but I've seen HBS in other places.
Yes. So this is so one way of thinking about the templates or the HBS is the views. So especially if you're coming from a Rails background, you would probably think of it
Except
as
for the part that you just wrote something that would belong in the controller.
yes, because
Inside the
components
view, you wouldn't do that in a Rails environment.
yes, because components don't exist in Rails, at least not in the Rails of 10 years ago, which is the Rails that
Right.
I learned. Um, yeah, that's exactly correct. You would have this clickety clickety action would be handled on the controller, but because a view always shows an instance of the model, right?
Right.
So one way of thinking about this is that routes have templates, and route templates always appear in app templates. Similarly, components have templates, and they always appear in app components. Now, it used to be that there was a folder called app templates components, and that's where component templates would go.
Okay.
They've changed this. I don't remember what the exact reasons are, but one payoff of this change is that the whereas app templates, as you can see, only has HBS files in it, and folders.
Mhm.
App components has both HBS files
And just pure
and
JavaScript.
a pure JavaScript. So I think that the
And you couldn't add the pure Java. You couldn't add liquid template language. I mean, not liquid. Ember template language inside the pure JavaScript, right? That's I'm assuming. Or you could.
well, why would I?
Right.
Um,
So those JavaScript files are just pure JavaScript that you're gonna then use somewhere else.
well, in the template.
Right.
So there's a very strong connection between personcard.js and personcard.hbs.
Right.
Because so in current Ember, you can get away with having components that don't have any JavaScript in them, right? But when you want to start having certain kinds of behaviors
Right.
show up, then you want to show uh, um, then you need to use JavaScript to handle that. Sorry.
But when you exported it, if I remember correctly, you exported it, you wrote it, the little bit that we were talking about, the show bio. You
This.
ex, yes, the toggle biography and toggle bio. You exported it from the template and brought it into the pure JavaScript file, which I'm looking at right now. Well, it's not pure, is the wrong word. But
So this is the JavaScript file.
but
All seven
nowhere in
lines in
the
it.
nowhere in the person cards.js do you import this. It just because it has
Yes, correct. Ember does that on its own. So
because
if
it has the name type. It has the
because
same
they have
file
the
name.
same name.
File name.
Exactly correct.
Got it. So got it. That was important because I was missing that connection. I was like, how is this even happening inside this file right now? If like I don't see nowhere did he bring it in.
Right. But Rails. So this is again like a little bit of the Rails influence because Rails
Right.
works the same way. If you have person.rb inside of
Right.
model or models, I think, then person.rb, like you would, now I'm a little fuzzy, but I know that Rails used the same kind of magic.
Yeah.
It used the layout of the file system to make connections between files. Ember, I mean, you can trick it with Ember. Like it's possible to be like there's some kind of thing like use template, template,
Give it a,
like
send it to a different file rather than that.
return some file name, blah blah blah. Yeah, there's something like that to do that. But because the way we teach Ember now, I don't teach Ember, but from what I read about the
You're
way that
teaching Ember right now.
I know, but I don't really I'm not in the conversations about how to teach Ember. I just read what other people say about it. And the sense I get is that there's this push to um, only start up the JavaScript when you really need it. So the old way you used to write it was you wrote this file first, the JavaScript file first. And so very frequently it would be just completely empty because you didn't have any kind of behavior or anything. You didn't need anything. So then you just had these 3 lines of completely unnecessary JavaScript. But now the idea is that no matter what, a component will quote unquote always have a template. There are templateless components that we can, that whatever we're not going to be using, I don't think anytime soon. But the idea is that a component is always something that's painted on the page. So it always has a template of some sort. But whether there's any kind of behavior that you have to mess around with, that's a different question, right?
Yeah, I like it. In my head, it's kind of reverse. In my head, I would have called the top file that would have been my HBS, and the bottom one would have been my .js.
That's what it is. This is JavaScript. This is HBS.
Oh, I'm just reading your interface wrong.
Oh yeah. The the toolbar is talking about what's above it.
Oh, shit. Whoo.
You are a tired man.
No,
right.
but you also have a line on the top that says
yeah, that's all the different buffers that I have open.
Got it. Got it.
Like when I jump from one to the other, you see how that changes colors?
Yes, I see. It's like tabs. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's actually the actual title of the buffer is below it, not above it.
Yeah. Normally
people
I don't.
On their weird interfaces, man.
Normally I don't work with horizontal splits. I prefer vertical splits precisely because of this. But because
glad we had this conversation, because I'm sure I'm not the only one, and it's not because I'm tired, that was looking at this and going, it's like, wait a minute, why is the .js file the one on the top if that seems to be the template, and the one on the bottom is the template if that seems to be the JavaScript file?
Okay, so now, so we have the action works on the click. Okay.
Right.
So now what should this action actually be doing? Like in English?
It should unhide. I mean, it's already there. It should unhide it.
Unhide the div, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so how can we describe that programmatically? Like, how do we know if the div is hidden or not? How do we know if this div is hidden or not?
Well, because it has a class of hidden, so we need to change the class too.
So unhiding the div is getting rid of the class hidden, right?
Right.
Okay. So so there's some kind of if somewhere, right? Now, since we want to write as little JavaScript as possible, and we know ifs are things here, we can do if something hidden.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think that'll work. Yeah. So it's complaining that asta doesn't exist. All right. Now, what should that be? That asta.
If
it's something that changes because under certain circumstances it's hidden, Under other circumstances, it's not.
It,
So
it's
what's something that changes?
it should be on click.
Nope.
The
Like it's just a variable, like something that changes.
oh class, yeah.
Or not class, just a variable. So some
Oh, she's saying
variable.
create a new variable.
Yeah. So if hidden bio, then hidden, right? But it says to use hidden bio if it is a named argument, or this hidden bio if it is a property on this.
Right.
Okay, because we don't define hidden bio anywhere here. We can
Mhm.
do something like let true as hidden bio. I think we could do it that way. And this may not work. Nope, it worked.
Mhm.
So that's one way of doing it, is to define a variable, but we have no mechanism here for changing the variable. So instead, let's say if this hidden bio, then hidden. Okay. So
Mhm.
now it's making a reference to some variable called hidden bio. And if that variable is true, or if that property is true, then add hidden to the classes of this div. So why is it showing these things? Why are they not hidden?
Because we have not toggled it yet. That we have not changed the value of the variable yet.
Well, what is the value of this dot hidden bio currently?
Nothing. We have not assigned it anything yet.
It's falsy.
Oh, it's already false, even if.
No. It's falsy because it's undefined. It is not false, which is a specific word in
Things
JavaScript.
are called falsy if they're undefined.
No. So JavaScript, I mean, many languages do this, but JavaScript is especially notorious for it. So we talk about it a lot. So yeah. So we have like because this is very funny, because you have a truthy value is considered true when it's found. All values are truthy unless they are defined as falsy. So for example, if true,
Right.
if true evaluates as true. If open close bracket, what does that evaluate? True or false? So
So
JavaScript
that's
lets you.
falsy. That would be
I
falsy.
actually, like this is like people like doing this during lightning talks, being like, well, what do you think this would be? So, well, I don't know. So you think this would be falsy?
I don't know because I never heard of falsy or truthy in my life.
Well, well, think of it this way: if console log, it's true. Else console log, it's false. Does this make sense now?
Yeah.
So if empty object literal, oops. Well, it's true. Sorry. Shoot. Empty array, however, I think is false. Actually, I can do this with ternary operators. Nope, empty array is true, is truthy. Then what did we have? We had empty object literal, true. What about zero? Is zero truthy or falsy?
I know, no clue.
False.
This is all completely
What
useless
about
to me. This all
what
sounds
about
perfectly,
zero as
perfectly
a string?
like geeking out over stuff that just delays projects. This is
Yeah.
the this is as a project manager, all I see is like, nope, a lot of nopes.
Can we bill
A
for
lot of
the
useless knowledge that I'm sure collectors of Arcana are enthralled by.
Well, it is, so the payoff is that you can do things like const a is nil. No, that's going to be complicated. But anyway, like, yes, it's a little bit, oops, it's a bit of a joke. So let's go back here. So if this has to be truthy, it can't be falsy, because put hidden in only if this is truthy. Okay.
Okay.
But since it's undefined, if something is undefined, then it's falsy.
Yeah.
So that's why we have this here written, but it's still printing this. So what's the default behavior we want? Do we want hidden bio to be true or false by default?
We want it to be true. We want it to be hidden by
Okay.
default.
So how can we make a variable that clearly is falsy by default to be true by default?
Mm-hmm.
I'm asking you, how do we do that?
Just set it as a variable down in the JavaScript file down below.
Exactly. Ah. And now they're all hidden.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what do we do in this action then to unhide the div?
On click, change class name. What are we using? We're not using, is this pure JavaScript? We're not using jQuery or anything like that?
No. Like, so
Because with jQuery, it's like a one-liner.
when hidden bio is true, and it's called this hidden bio so that the template knows that it's a reference to the class, which is what's in here. When that is true, add the word hidden to the class list, to the classes that pertain to this div. So that means that when this is false, we don't want the word hidden added. So we don't have to change it. We don't have to put in something else. We just don't want hidden there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we like, so functionally we're not like doing like, subtract the word hidden, because it's all in this true false here. So all we want to do to toggle the biography is change the value of hidden bio from true to false.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's just do that. Oh. Okay. That's why we need action. Nice. Ay, ay, ay. Ta-da. Alex,
Yep.
look at the
Nice.
screen.
Nice.
All right. Is this the behavior we want?
Yep.
Are you sure?
Well, click it back and then it should close. So we should have a way to toggle back.
Yep. So it doesn't
That's why I
work.
said jQuery would have been a one-liner because you can just switch. But I mean, that's a good opportunity for you to tell us why we're not using jQuery.
Because we're not.
Oh, okay.
So the mistake that we make here is we say, or that I made intentionally, is this action is called toggle biography, but it doesn't actually toggle anything. It just changes hidden bio to false.
It just toggles it once.
Well, it doesn't it just sets it to false. So if it's
Right.
already false, it stays false.
It was right. It's not even toggling it.
Right. So you just do this. There
Okay,
we go.
that works.
Is this still right? Are we still cool?
Toggle
with
it
this?
again. Let me see. Yep. I mean, that's it. That's what we wanted today. Yeah.
Well, but this isn't like an accordion.
Oh, it is? What do you mean by accordion?
Well, I mean, well, do we care that you can have multiple cards open at once? Do we want that behavior?
Oh, no. It would probably be nice if the rest of them close when you open one. Yes, absolutely. Actually, I don't know. Do we?
I don't know.
Well, let's think through this. I mean, do you want to have multiple people open at the same time? Because I'm thinking, I know you don't want me to rush, but I'm thinking in terms of like abstraction here of like, this is supposed to be triggered by multiple things, not necessarily, could be triggered not only by clicking on top of the name. Even though that's what we set out to do today, I imagine a future in which some of these things are triggered because we click something on the visualization.
Exactly.
And this is where I'm trying to figure out what would be the most abstract way. Well, I guess it's impossible to tell unless we start actually then getting into the weeds of the visualization itself. But this is one of those cases where, like, going back to the beginning of our conversation today, where I want to keep my freedom. I don't want to create a rule now that then I'm going to regret later that forces this type of behavior across the board, in which then I have to write the exception, build the exception into the modular part, as opposed to simply leaving the door open for ourselves in the future. How one would go about doing that here in this case would be to right now, things that we know are going to be a part of this no matter what, is that they open and close. Whether they open and close all at the same time and that we force them to do that, no, I think that should be an option, because we imagine scenarios in which maybe we do want them all to open at the same time, maybe with a button that says open them all.
Right.
Maybe we do want also this kind of thing to be an option too, what we're seeing here, for 3 of them to be open.
Yep.
And maybe we want an option for just one to be open. So we have 3 options. And I think that the smartest thing to do right now, prior to knowing what it is that we're going to be opening with other mechanisms, is to leave these options open.
Right. So this is the most generic solution, and is the it's the most it's the least brittle solution, because whether a certain person's bio is shown or not depends 1,000% on the context of whether someone has clicked on their name or not. It's not affected by any other thing going on in the DOM. So it's the least brittle expression of this. Like the way we solved it in the earlier version of this was we had it so that it could only one could ever be open. And we actually used routing to achieve that. So on the old one, if you clicked on a name, the URL changed.
Right.
Like it went to, I mean, it didn't, but it went to the equivalent of localhost slash people slash and then that person's name.
Right.
Whereas here it doesn't. The URL stays the same because we're not making those big kinds of changes because we haven't decided yet that we want to impose those restrictions. And like you said, I can like there are tons of reasons why you would want to have any of these behaviors available.
Right.
Like especially once we start talking about familial relations.
Right.
Like the matrilinearity of these people.
Yeah.
Like,
And I already know that one of the behaviors that I want to see is the ability for some of these names to move up and down in relationship to each other. I already know that a behavior I want is to change the sequence, to have for ourselves, to give ourselves the power to change that sequence based on certain stimuli, on certain interactions.
So one thing, for example, could be like when we bring in the matrilinearity, if you click on someone and they have a mother, like that mother's card goes whoop, 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 and opens up right underneath.
Right. So that might be an exercise we can explore on our next episode.
Well, I mean, I think we're kind of far away from that, but
no, but I mean, but we are in the moment of thinking about how we want to modularize our JavaScript behavior on the list, not on the visualization, but on the list. And I think that what I'm hearing from you is that you agree with me that we should keep our options open. We shouldn't close ourselves to universal forms of behavior that are right now, not yet. So I don't know. We have a week to decide what we're gonna do next week. But why don't we summarize what we did today, and what we learned?
Well, I finally relearned what actions are for. So I didn't, maybe in lieu of a summary, I can quickly explain what I did here because I did it, like this didn't work. Right. It complained. So, and if we look at the error, it says you access this hidden bio from a function passed to the on modifier. Okay, we know that because that's done up here. But the function itself was not bound to, wait, why does it say this hidden? Oh, it's because I haven't saved this. Oh, that would be really funny. No, okay, so I don't know why it's saying this hidden bio. Oh, sorry. This is hidden bio, not toggle biography. So we're trying to access something called hidden bio, passed from the on, but the function itself was not bound to a valid this context. That's what it is. So when you want something that you're describing in the template to have access to everything here, that's what they mean about binding it to a valid this context. And in order for functions you write here to have access to everything here, they have to be actions.
Mm-hmm.
They have to have this specific action decorator. That's what this is called. Okay, so even though it worked when we were just logging to the console without the action decorator, for it to then be able to talk to other aspects of this class, that thisness has to be very explicit.
Mm-hmm.
And the way you make that explicit is that anything here that refers to that does actions here has to have action as a thing.
Right.
Now, if I were to create something like string, and Like if I do that, then it shows up without my having to say action, because this isn't actually doing anything. It's just something that's defined and doesn't ever change. So it's okay for me to just say this string. But because toggle biography is doing something, it is causing an action, you need the action here. Okay. So now when we try this and I click on the name, we get this other error. You attempted to update object hidden bio to false. So that's this here, hidden bio. That's what it's referring to. I attempted to update it to false, but it is being tracked by a tracking context, such as a template, computed property, or observer. So what that means is that Ember is smart enough in this error to say, hey, this here suggests that some behavior related to what people see relies on what this variable is. So that means that it infers that this is something that can change. But when it changes, how do we tell it when it changes down here with this line? How do we tell the template, hey, this changed? That's not built in, you know? So the way you do that is you use tracked, which says, hey, this variable or this property can change. And when it changes, update the thing.
It's a kind of little export. Yeah, it's all of these are it's export now. It's exportable now. The variable is exportable.
Yeah. So you know, as something that's a little bit more apparent. So I have this now, so it doesn't print anything because it's blank. But then like let's make get now.
Just a little notice that we're coming up on 3 minutes.
Yeah, we may. I like yeah. Bum, bum, bum. All right, that's weird that it changed it like this.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
maybe I shouldn't be playing these games.
Yeah, you should not be playing this game with 2 minutes left on the clock left. There, Monsignor. Right, okay. This is the time for a flourish and a goodbye, and then we'll see you next week type of thing.
Yes. So I was trying to make it so that it creates a little live clock. But yeah, I wasn't going to get that working. Anyway, wow. Tracked is why this now works, because now the template knows that that this hidden bio can change. Yeah. And when something happens here that changes the value of hidden bio, as it knows from the JavaScript file, it needs to then be able to signal to the template. So that's what they mean there by listener and observer, terms like that. Those are more like legacy Ember terms. There used to be like Ember observer and whatever. So anyway, so this this little, you know, show hide. It's a little irritating that this is moving back and forth, but that's a CSS problem.
We'll fix it later. That's not this is about getting the data in the right place.
Yeah. And yeah, so what did I learn? Well, I learned everything here, and we learned about how creating components can help with help modularize your code, and then can help you understand where things are happening and why they're happening with a greater sense of you know where to look for problems.
Yeah.
Is that how you'd put it?
I think that's going to be an ongoing lesson that we're going to keep coming back to over and over again. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in this week, and we will have these videos up online on YouTube next week probably. And I hope everybody gets some rest, especially those who stayed up all night and need rest. Although I'm probably going to go watch that championship that our friend was watching. And we'll see you next week.
Wait, I thought you were celebrating the end of the Caribbean Digital by binging all of the second season of Mandalorian so far.
That's happening tomorrow.
That's tomorrow?
That's definitely happening tomorrow.
So the episode last week was like, I heard watch myself because I had to be like,
that was so the Ahsoka was
That's anyway. The Ahsoka Tano episode. But
I will.
I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying that like everyone knew the Ahsoka Tano episode was coming.
Yeah, they had announced it already. Yeah.
No one knew what today's episode was bringing to the table, which is another.
Bye everybody. Nice to see you. Bye everybody.